Hello and welcome to the Inside the U live postgame show where the 22nd ranked Miami Hurricanes fall 11-3 to the 14th ranked Florida Gators. Very disappointing performance today. Miami loses the series. They also lose 8-1 on Saturday after the 5-2, solid win on Friday. So overall, there's a lot to get into with this. We're going to go straight to Gino DiMare after the game with the Zoom interviews. As soon as we're ready, definitely drop in the comments below. I know Matt's here already with his assessment. There's a lot more to get into for sure, but definitely let me know what you think, some things you guys would like to discuss in this one. There are some things that I'd like to discuss. One of the things that stands out to me, that has stood out to me from either the fall or spring practices that I've been to, the few that I've been to, and seeing how this has played out in the season, is I've been concerned with the offensive output of this team. We will get into that. I've got some numbers I want to go through with that, with how the weekend shook out. But again, Miami scores only 9 runs on the weekend. Very disappointing. Not good enough against teams like this, and certainly giving up 8 runs on Saturday, 11 on Sunday. You're not going to win very many games like that. So overall, these 2 games were not close, and there was a lot to talk about with both sides. Hitting not good enough, pitching not good enough. Today I started on the mound with Jake Garland. He was only able to go 2 1/3 innings as a starter, 5 hits, 4 runs, only 1 strikeout. He's not a big strikeout guy, but he was getting strikeouts to begin the season, had 11 coming into it in his first 2 starts against Harvard and Towson. And certainly, big takeaway with this series is this is not Harvard and Towson. This is Florida. This is a lot different opponent. It's going to be tougher against these teams that are better. And I think this is a telling sign, or at least, I know it's only one series, but I think that there are concerns with this team. We will see how it plays out, certainly. But Miami's got to be much better if they're going to have any success in the ACC. I know it's a long season, but again, pitching not good enough the last 2 days, and the hitting just simply not good enough. I do want to look at the final numbers here on the series. Miami 7 hits today, 34 official at bats. Once again, waiting for Gino here. So 8 hits on Friday, 6 on Saturday, 7 today. Just doing final numbers here. So I have him 21-98, batting average of 214 for the series. Like I said, just the 9 runs in the series. The other thing that stands out to me with Jake Garland, I touched on his line. He gives up 3 runs in the first inning. Miami's down 3-0 right from the jump. But he only had the 1 ground out. And one of the things that's been... We might be getting started here. Just hold on. Just waiting on the Zoom calls here. Looks like we're getting ready, hopefully soon. Be able to ask some questions. I definitely want to ask about the lineup and also the pitching today with Jake Garland in particular. But the 1 ground out, for him to be successful, he's got to get the ball down, get ground outs. He had 5 flyouts. So even when they were, getting a hold of some balls there, that even on outs, they were getting the ball in the air, and that's not a good sign for Jake as a pitcher. He's got to keep the ball down. He's at his best when he does that, and certainly just didn't have a good outing today. He had struggled against Florida in his previous 2 career outings. So, that was a little disappointing that this trend is continuing with him. Again, he's a guy that's coming off a season where he started a lot of games last year, ERA over 5. You're hoping to see better performance, in particular, better performance against better teams. There were positive signs his first 2 starts, and just a step back today with how he pitched. Miami did change up the rotation. If you guys didn't know, Alejandro Rosario, the Friday night starter, did not start on Friday, did not pitch all weekend. And coach described it coming into the weekend that dealing with a little bit of a dead arm situation, which happens with pitchers. I do want to get an update. He was optimistic last week before the game started that they'd be able to pitch him next weekend, which in the Boston College series, but we'll find out hopefully if there's any update on Rosario. One of the reasons why there's some concern is because velocity was down, and anytime a pitcher drops in velocity, you always have to be careful. And I think he said it happened in his last outing about in the 3rd inning. So you shouldn't see that kind of drop off that quickly when you're on the mound there. But anyways, pitching, hitting, not good enough. Outfielders, they're really having a hard time figuring out which outfielders to go with. Lorenzo Carrier did not start today. He does get a pinch hit appearance late in the game, but it was the first time that he had not started all season long. And he was 0 for 14 in his last 6 games. So certainly in a little bit of a rut. The freshman, talented guy, comes out of the gate flying, 7 to 14 his first 4 games to start his career, but a little bit of a struggle. It's been a struggle since, so he does not get the start, and they're just trying to find different guys, particularly on the corner as they move Jacob Burke kind of in that center field spot. He's also started left and right, but they have him in center right now, and really I think that's where he'll stay if Jacoby Long is not in the lineup. When he's in there, I expect Jacoby to handle center field, but regardless, they're trying to figure it out. Either Levinson getting a start today, but he goes 0 for 2. Villegas is one of the freshmen. Renzo Gonzalez is a guy that, when I saw him, he hit pretty well, but he's just not gotten a lot of opportunities. When I saw him in practices is what I'm talking about. But he's another freshman. They're just trying to find different guys, and that's a big thing that they're looking for in the lineup, really struggling with right now. Mike Rosario started games in right field, batted at the top of the order, but he's not hit well, and he's not been in there today. He gets in there with 2 at-bats, strikes out both times, so he's not off to a good start. And, as a team, Miami came into the game hitting 275. The stats aren't updated yet, but again, they're going to be under 300 for the year. I think we're starting here maybe. With the Zoom calls, I think I don't know if players will be available. But hopefully we get somebody. I'd like to get, kind of get Jake Garland's take, starting pitcher. It's always good to get their thoughts on the game, even if it didn't go well for him. I'm curious what he thinks of this one. He's also a captain, so just to get his take on the whole series, would be good as Miami drops 2 of 3 to Florida. Once again, falling 11 to 3 tonight. Today, it dropped to 8 and 3 on the season.
Yeah, I'm going home to submit, okay?
We're still just waiting on the Zoom calls here.
It's a good picture for the Gator.
But definitely, also one thing I want to make sure, audio check, let me know if you guys can hear me okay, if everything sounds good from my end. Once again, just waiting, but there's some more detailed things I'd like to get into. But once again, just overall, it's just a disappointing performance for the weekend, and I'm sure Gino's going to feel disappointed, especially with the sellout crowd on Friday night. The energy, they talked a lot about that, about the energy, the sellout crowd, able to feed off that. They liked having the crowd packed. They win 5-2, and certainly when you win that first game, you're hoping that you can win the series. And once again, beating Florida in season series has been difficult for Miami over the years. They do win. They took 2 out of 3 last year, but they just couldn't build on that this weekend, and certainly disappointing. Florida's got a good team here, a lot of returners from last year, guys you recognize that Miami's faced. Miami's featuring a lot of new faces in the lineup, but they've got to get some things figured out. And even with their better players, and we'll get into some stuff. There's a guy in particular that stands out to me as a guy that needs to start, hitting a little bit better, that really struggled this weekend. We'll get into him in a little bit here after we get done with some interviews, touched on the outfielders. The bullpen, I do want to make mention of that, touched on Jake Garland, but Miami throws 10 guys today, if you could see the stats here. I know my camera's blocking it, so you can't see it, but Miami throws 10 guys. Garland's the only one that goes multiple innings. Maybe they want to get some different guys some work, but certainly you'd like to have a long relief guy. If Garland's not able to, or any starter, if they struggle, you'd like to bring in a guy that could give you 3 or 4 innings, or at least 2 or 3, and they just didn't do that today. Jordan Dubberly, 1 2/3, had the longest outing amongst the guys out of the bullpen. He saw 7 batters there, did not allow a run. McFarland comes in. Definitely want to talk about Alex McFarland. He's been one of these interesting guys this year that out of the rotation, a guy that has started games in the past. He's in his draft year. They talk about his talent, but he's just not He's just not gotten opportunities to start. And when he's got in there like today, he gives up a couple runs, gives up a home run there. Only pitches 2 2/3 of an inning. I am curious who will start on Tuesday, Miami's next game at FIU. Miami concludes an 11-game homestand to start the year. Once again, 8-3. But they go at FIU on Tuesday. I'm not sure who's going to start that game. There are some different options. I thought McFarland would be a guy. He did pitch a couple times over the weekend. And then he only threw 16 pitches today. But I don't know if he's a guy that they'd like to get in there for the Tuesday start, or if they're going to go make it a bullpen day. I'm curious what they'll do there if Gino's decided. So they go at FIU on Tuesday. And then they, just FIU lost today, 15-0 to UConn, 7-6 on the season. And then Miami's next weekend opponent, we'll get into that, but it's against Boston College, and they're not off to a great start either. They're back at home next weekend. Once again, just waiting for Gino to speak here. If you guys are jumping on just now, you haven't missed anything. I've been able to talk about a little bit of some of my reaction to the game, but it looks like here's Gino. Actually, got a player here, Jacob.
Jacob Burke. If you have a question for Jacob, please use the hand raise function. We'll start with Christopher Stock from Inside the U. Chris.
Jacob, just your overall thoughts on this series, dropping 2 or 3. And then also from the lineup, we've talked about the lineup since we've talked to you before, but, just couldn't get the hits and runs this weekend. What would you see from you guys?
Well, Friday is the brand of baseball that we know we're capable of. And bottom line is we just didn't play that same brand of baseball the last 2 days. And credit to Florida. They played well. They came back, and I think they wanted a little more than us, honestly. And it's not that this isn't everything. It's one series. It's a long season, but definitely we're gonna have to eliminate the walks. We're just gonna have to be us more. I felt like we sometimes played to their tempo. We let the pitchers speed us up. We got down and started going into panic mode and swinging at bad pitches. And we just kind of helped them out and played to their game instead of staying and trusting our preparation and what we're about. And I think that's a lot of what made the difference.
Our next question comes from Adam Lichtenstein. Adam.
Hey, Jacob. Like you said, long season ahead, just one series. How do you guys as a group kind of turn the page on this weekend and kind of regroup, for going forward?
We start off with Tuesday with FIU. We come out with a lot of energy. We try to work on and fix some of the mistakes that we made this weekend, and we just look forward and don't look back.
We'll go back to Christopher Stock. Chris.
Jacob, you just mentioned you felt like a little bit of a panic mode. I'm curious what you saw. Again, you guys go down 3-0 after the first inning, but just what'd you see or what was kind of going on in the dugout that made you feel that you felt like you guys were panicking a little bit with the early deficit?
I've just seen us have a lot better at bats. Pitchers battle a lot better, more like way more in the zone. Our pitchers usually are in the zone and competing the whole time, and our hitters usually are giving really taxing at bats and just really battling up there. And I just felt like when we got down, some guys were trying to do too much, and I felt like we forgot what we're about and what we do that makes us successful, and we just kind of started letting them control the game.
And just to follow, I'm curious from Florida's standpoint, particularly with Manning there pitching, or Purnell, but either of those two guys, what were they doing to kind of keep you guys off balance?
I don't know. I feel like all our pitchers this weekend just came out and they attacked the zone. They really didn't walk a whole lot of us. They made us earn it, and I feel like, credit to them. They had good stuff, but I think we're capable of a lot more, and that we didn't really show the last 2 games.
Are there any other questions for Jacob? Burke, thank you for your time.
So we're supposed to get Gino, and it looks like Jacob will be the only player we'll get today. But some good thoughts from Jacob. He always has good perspective, kind of just getting to know him a little bit. So I was able just to ask a few questions on what he saw.
Gino, can you hear us?
I hear you. Yep.
We have Hurricanes head coach Gino DiMare. Gino, if you can start with an opening statement, and then we'll go into questions.
Well, just a disappointing loss, to say the least. Didn't do anything very well starting on the mound, start the game. Didn't get in a good outing from Jake, and we knew there was a chance we might have to use a lot of guys today and to get to the final guys there at the end. And we did. We used a lot of guys and gave a lot of opportunities and didn't really do much with them. I mean, some guys did okay, but you walk 14 guys. That's not a formula for success. And yeah, I didn't like, our at-bats. When we fell behind there like 7-1, it felt like we weren't given very good at-bats the way that we need to give. So disappointing loss, and one that we better turn the page very quickly and get ready to play, because we got a day off tomorrow that we have to take, and we play on Tuesday. So we got to be ready to go Tuesday.
If you have a question for Gino, please use the hand raise function. We'll start with Christopher Stock from InsideTheU. Chris.
Gino, can you expand a little bit more on Jake today? Just the one ground out. I know he's got to get the ball down, get ground balls. What would you see from him, particularly in the first inning?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. He's a ground ball guy. You don't want to get the ball up, especially on a windy Sunday, but they weren't hitting many ground balls. And for him, falling behind and just, I don't think anything he was doing there was keeping them off balance. I mean, they were seeing the ball pretty good out of the hand. They weren't chasing anything, and he did leave some balls up. And when Jake is successful, he's getting ground balls. That's what he is. He's a guy that pitches to contact and gets ground balls, and he wasn't doing that. So obviously we went to the pen pretty quickly, but like I said, we were planning on having to do that anyways if that was the case, because we had a lot of guys we wanted to bring in, and told them we'd give them opportunities, but just the game got away from us. It just got away from us. And again, it's 14 free passes. You can't do that. And everyone, just about every pitcher, if I had to guess, was included in that. I don't know if anybody, maybe Arguelles, every other pitcher, him and Torres, other than Torres, walked at least one person, if not more.
Just to follow again on the pitching, you said you'd like to get a lot of guys in there. Do you have guys that can long relief? Can you get 2 or 3 innings from guys if they had pitched well?
We were hoping. I mean, our long relief guys came in there early. Guys like, Dubberly, McFarland, Arguelles, those are our longer relief guys. And we were trying to get it to, we could basically get 3 innings out of Gage and Walters. That was the deal with them, where they had pitched over the course of the weekend. So the plan was, if we can get to the 7th, we can go to those guys, but we can never get to them. The game just got out of control there before we could ever get to the 7th inning. And that's what we were trying to do. That was the plan. So we were trying to match up different guys in those situations there to get to the 7th. That's the way I was looking at it. And the game just got out of hand before we could get to the 7th. In terms of, I guess, say out of hand, it got to be 7-1. So the situation for those guys coming in is not quite the same. Not what we were looking to bring those guys in for, but down 7-1.
Our next question comes from Adam Lichtenstein. Adam.
Obviously a couple tough games there. I did the math earlier. I think the team outside of Yo-Yo hit about 200 for the weekend. Just what were the Gators pitchers doing that just kind of made life difficult for you guys?
I don't know. I mean, obviously their pitching staff is good. I mean, they've got good arms. They attacked the zone, threw a lot of strikes. I heard Burke say, he's right. They attacked the zone. They didn't walk a lot of guys. So games like that against them, you're not really going to have high scoring games. You shouldn't. They're going to be relatively lower scoring games. We won Friday night 5-2, I think, and last night should have been a 1-0 game going into the 9th. And that didn't happen. And of course today, just the game got away from us. So I mean, pitching wise, I felt like they attacked the zone. They got after our hitters. for the most part, they pitched ahead in the count, and they didn't walk a lot of guys. They didn't give a lot of free passes. There were some balls, not enough. Some balls on our end were hit hard, and they were caught. Some of their outfielders made good plays. We hit some balls hard right at people. We did that last night, and we did that today. Not enough. We didn't hit enough hard balls, but when we did hit them hard, it seemed like they made the plays.
Our next question comes from Susan Miller-Degnan. Susan?
Hey, Gino. 4 for 24, I believe, in the series with runners in scoring position. Any comments on that? I guess that goes with the whole theme.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we obviously would like to be more productive in those situations, but yeah, no comment. We just didn't swing. We just didn't swing the bat overall. Today, I was most disappointed because I just didn't feel like we gave good at bats. You know, the last night's pitch, it was a pitching duel, and I had no problem with that. That kid threw very well. The kid tonight, you know, today was okay, but he's not one of their better guys. Statistically, he certainly isn't. And he's basically a two-pitch guy for the most part. And we didn't do a good job, especially when we fell behind. Like I was saying, I just felt like that was, I didn't like the way the club, you know, played together at that time.
Thank you.
Our last question for Gino comes from Christopher Stock. Chris?
Yeah, Gino, you're touching on offensively. Max Romero struggled on 1 for 13 on the weekend and 0 for 5 today. He's catching it. What are you seeing from him at the plate this weekend? I know he's catching all the time. Is that maybe part of it? Do you have to try to get him at a DH spot here, or just kind of what you see from him hitting the ball this weekend?
Trying to do too much. Just trying to do too much. I mean, we only played 3 games this week, Chris. We didn't play a midweek game, so he only had 3 games. So I mean, he's gonna have to play a lot more in pro ball. But the bottom line, Max is a guy that needs to stay within himself. Try to do too much. When you see a guy swinging a pitch above his head and in the dirt, you know, he's got full count and he can walk, pitches way out of the zone, and he's swinging no matter what. That just tells you right there, way too antsy, trying to do too much. And instead of just relaxing, playing the game the way he knows how to play the game. Yeah, and so to me, he's got to do a better job of that. And we've talked about that. Got to stay within himself and do a much better job trying to do too much and playing a little out of control.
And then I know you said Rosario, we didn't see him this weekend. You weren't expecting him, resting him. Do you have an update on him when we might see him again, or what's the plan for him this week?
We're just trying to bring him back along. So he's just been playing catch. He hasn't thrown a pen yet. Don't know when he's coming back, but he's been in a tossing program, flat grounds, and I'm not sure when he'll be back.
And do you have a starter for Tuesday?
I do not.
Okay, great. Gino, thank you for your time.
Record.
So there we go. Able to ask Gino a few questions, kind of some housekeeping stuff with Rosario and starting pitcher for Tuesday. Again, Miami goes at FIU on Tuesday. Rosario, as you heard, we'll see how it goes with him if they can get him in there. But one of the things Gino mentioned leading into the series with sitting Rosario, the plan is they want to be very careful with him. He's a guy with talented arms. Certainly they think highly of him to be a Friday night starter. So if he doesn't pitch next weekend, it wouldn't surprise me at all, given how they just spoke about him, and they want to make sure he's right before he gets in there. And we saw this last year with Rosario, that they sat him for a few series. They brought him back late in the year, if you remember. So this is something that they've kind of dealt with him, and certainly I expect that moving forward. They want to make sure he's right. I asked about Max Romero. He's a guy hitting in the 4 spot. Struggled on the weekend. Again, 1 for 13, 0 for 5 today with 3 strikeouts. For a team that doesn't have a lot of proven hitters, Max has been very successful, you know, in his spot time at Vanderbilt, and they expect him to be a guy that produces a lot of runs. It just didn't happen this weekend. They needed him to be better, and like Gino said, he felt like he was chasing a little bit, trying to do too much. And also a guy that struggled today, you know, is not excluded from essentially criticism, but Yo-Yo Morales, 0 for 5 today, not good enough for your number 3 hitter. Left 4 guys on base, needed some big hits out of him. There's a lot of pressure on both of these guys to produce because they don't have a lot of other production from the bottom order of their lineup. So the 3-4 hitters with Morales and Romero, a lot of attention on them, a lot of expectations from them. Morales did deliver in the opening game with 3 RBIs and a home run, so he did get a couple hits there. And then also he goes 2 hits with an RBI and a double in the second game. So a little bit better, a better performance from him. Just today, not a strong performance. But again, Romero, I had a feeling the coach was going to say, I've heard him mention this about catching. Look, these guys in college baseball don't have to catch every single day. There's built-in days off, so it doesn't surprise me to hear him say that. But I did want to get his take because Romero was not an everyday catcher last year. So maybe he is adjusting to that, just having to play a lot more at catcher. And certainly he's catching because Perez not available to catch. They don't want to put him in there yet. But he did DH all 3 games this weekend, first starts of the weekend. Kind of looking at his numbers here. So he goes 1 for 4, 0 for 4, and then 0 for 2. So just not a big performance from him, but certainly just good to see him get out there, and hopefully he can kind of move forward from this because they need his bat in there, especially batting 5th. And you saw the home run power from his first game there at FAU. So we'll see if he can build on his performance there. But overall disappointing performance by Miami this weekend. Coach talked about the at-bats. He didn't see good enough at-bats, and Jacob Burke kind of hinted at, that's what he kind of saw. He felt like guys panicked a little bit, even though they were only down 3-0. Coach talked about the 7-1 deficit. That happened in the 6th inning. Miami was down 4-1 in the third. They do score a run there in the third to keep it close, down 4-0, so they get a run 4-1, and then the 6th inning just got away from them, so down 7-1. It seemed like, talking to Gino and Jacob, both of them kind of felt like they just didn't have good at-bats after that. And you're going to have deficits. This is going to be something that they're going to have to adjust to moving forward in terms of you're not always going to be leading. It's not always going to look great, especially against good teams. And they just didn't do much after that. And, you see a couple runs there in the 9th to close it to 11-3, but certainly just not a big performance offensively. Overall, just disappointing performance all the way around. And not just with the result, but like Coach said, just not good enough at bats. Kind of bouncing back to the pitching. It was interesting. He mentioned I was able to ask about, the relievers. You heard me at the beginning of the show here talk about, it'd be nice if they could get 3 or 4 innings from a guy. And he said they would like to have done that, kind of get into the 6th and 7th to some of their top end guys, and they just didn't feel comfortable with who they put out there, that they did well enough. And certainly that's why you saw shorter outings. I know some people have been curious about McFarland, but he does walk. He sees 4 batters, walks 1, gives up a home run, strikes out a guy, gets a ground out. So just not a real clean performance from him. It seems like if he had pitched better, maybe they would have left him out there. But like Coach mentioned, 14 walks as a team, that's not good at all. 8 of the 10 relievers that got in there issued a walk. So I'm sure as a whole, they would have liked somebody to step up out of the bullpen, and essentially it just wasn't enough guys to do that. Dubberly was a guy that I'm curious about because we did see him start last year and was productive at times. I thought maybe that he would have got a little bit longer of a leash opportunity, but he just didn't get to do that. 7 batters that he faced, he doesn't give up a run, but does give up a hit and a walk in 1 2/3 innings. Okay, just kind of reading some of the comments. Shout out to Colton for jumping in. Matt, I know you're always here. Raul's here as well. Kane's Cat's always here. Yeah, I'm glad you're here from the beginning and jumping on. A couple other notes. I touched on the outfielders at the beginning. Once again, they're rotating guys in. Burke gets in there. It's kind of an everyday guy, but they've been rotating different guys in there. Renzo Gonzalez, Levinson gets in there, Carrier, and then Villegas gets a second start for the weekend. But just overall, they're not getting a lot of production from the corner outfield spot. So Jacoby Long gets in there, does get a hit. So what we've seen from Coach in years past, it's only a pinch hit opportunity. But Jacoby delivers. So maybe Jacoby's going to be a guy that gets in there, gets to start the next game on Tuesday against FIU. I do want to make mention of this. Miami does return home next weekend. ACC play begins. They play Boston College, who is struggling right now against UNF. down 16-6. BC is 4-4 to start the year, so this would drop them to 4-5. Miami should, take 2 or 3, but that's a weekend series you're looking to sweep. You've got to get some sweeps and conference play, get back on track. Again, Miami against FIU on Tuesday. Coach said he's not sure who's going to start that game. I'm curious. Drop in the comments. Let me know, who would you like to see be the starting pitcher? Get in there. Get an opportunity to do so. FIU dropped to 7-6. They lost 15-0 to UConn. I do want to wrap this up. Got some other stuff to get to, some other content I'm working on. Once again, Miami loses 5-2. They win 5-2 on Friday, but they dropped this series, and I think that's the disappointing part, that they weren't able to get the series win when you do get that Friday win, and that has been a struggle against Florida in years past where they don't win that Friday game, but this weekend they did, and then they lose 8-1, 11-3. So 2 games they just weren't in it close enough at all, and certainly today you're hoping for a win because Florida didn't have a guy that they definitely were going to start. It was to be announced going into the weekend, and certainly they delivered with the pitching output there, and Miami did not. So we will see how things go moving forward. Just kind of looking at it, I do want to see if the season stats have been updated. So the season stats aren't updated. This was going into today's game. Andrew Walters, I do want to say it's been a great start for him out of the bullpen as a closer. He's done well. One thing that I thought was interesting was they did pitch him. I want to make sure I got it right. Yeah, 2 1/3 inning on Friday. That was the only time we saw him. So I'll be curious to see kind of the usage with him, if he can, either shorten his outings, if he can only go 1, or if they can't use him the next inning. I wasn't surprised to see him not out there on Saturday, but it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. Certainly they want him out there as much as possible, but you also have to worry about limiting his innings as well. Kind of looking here. He touched on Gino touched on Gage as a guy. He was one of those guys that was a potential starter. That they were looking at 8 different guys for the first 5 starting spots of the rotation. Gage was one of those guys that they were looking at that didn't start. So he's a guy that I wonder could start on Tuesday, just based on his usage over the weekend. So again, 1 inning on Friday, 32 pitches. And then that was the only time that we saw him this weekend. So if I were to guess, I think maybe he might get that start. The other guys that they've already, Carson was a guy that's already started and obviously started over the weekend. And then we've touched on, the other guys that Schlesinger was one of those other guys that didn't earn a start. And then McFarland, we've touched on McFarland. We saw him today. He did start opening weekend. So he has started a game, but didn't start since then. So he's a guy that could potentially get back in there, but, he didn't pitch real well today coming out of the bullpen. So if I were to guess, maybe Gage. So we'll see. First career start. We saw Carson pitch well in his first career start. Gage was a drafted guy, highly touted recruit. So we will see if it's going to be him or somebody else. Maybe there's somebody you'd like to see out there based on their performance already or what you've heard about them. So I'm going to wrap this up again. Miami bounces back on Tuesday, or looking to bounce back on Tuesday at FIU. First road game of the year, even though it's here in Miami. We will see how they do and how they bounce back. I do want to mention one of the things that Miami struggled with last season was when things started to go bad, when it didn't look good either on a weekend, they had a tough time bouncing back and putting better performances moving forward. And I hope that this is not a sign of things to come with this year's team. A lot of new faces, but you don't want a weekend like this become a loss against FIU or drop the series against Boston College. You want to be able to bounce back, and that's what I'll be watching for in these next 4 games, in particular against teams that Miami should beat. But certainly you want to play well, either take 3 or 4 in these next 4 games or win all 4. You want to be able to bounce back, and I think completely on both sides, pitching has an opportunity to be much better than what they showed this weekend. A lot of pitchers didn't pitch well, giving up a lot of runs. They give up, looking at it here, 21 runs on the series, so that certainly not good enough there. And then also hitting. like I mentioned, hitting 214, scored 9 runs in 3 games on the weekend. You got a lot of guys that will be looking to bounce back. That's what I'll be paying attention to with this team because, like I said, last year they did not do a great job of bouncing back. So I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for watching. Definitely stay tuned to the site and the channel for more information on this team. And certainly kind of the big news to watch for from an injury standpoint is the health and availability of Alejandro Rosario, as he did not pitch this weekend. So we will see how that works out. I want to thank again everybody for stopping by, and take care. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.